So I've mentioned before about how Hillary Clinton and her campaign and campaign surrogates tried to smear Bernie Sanders as a sexist and implied that he's racially insensitive, and basically they just tried to use identity politics against Bernie Sanders to advance Hillary Clinton's political career. Now, thanks to WikiLeaks, we actually have some insight as to what they were thinking when they were doing this. So Hillary Clinton's campaign was really upset that Bernie Sanders had more individual donations than Hillary Clinton. So we all remember when she proudly proclaimed at that one debate that she has more female donors. That was her way of kind of spinning it to make her look better than Bernie Sanders.
And I'm very proud that for the first time, a majority of my donors are women.
But they couldn't do that because they realized that Bernie Sanders actually has more female donors than her. So in one email, they state, "My concern is that he says he has more women donating than Hillary Rodham Clinton. What's our answer to that? Bernie has more donors than we do by number, period, correct? Do we know what percentage of his donors are women? Is it anywhere close to our 60% stat? 44% of Sanders' donors were women. The remarks are strong without this, and we open the door to lose on two fronts. He has more donors, and he has more women donors." So this is interesting to me. They tried to make it look as though the enthusiasm is actually behind Hillary Clinton, when in fact it was not. It was behind Bernie Sanders. And they try to make him look sexist, or imply that he just has all of these straight white male Bernie bros donating to him, when in actuality, no, he had more female donors. So I love that they tried to spin this, but they couldn't. Now, they also tried to find ways to imply that Bernie Sanders didn't really care about mass incarceration, and talked about how many African Americans were in jail in the state of Vermont as a way to divert criticism away from Hillary Clinton for her support of the 1994 crime bill and move that criticism onto Bernie Sanders. So they state, "Don't think he's answered for it and don't think he ever sought to do anything about it. Tony, can we confirm he didn't push any criminal justice reform in Vermont? If he hasn't taken leadership, we can ask Zerlina to push around to our Twitter friends, i.e. probably trolls." Podesta states, "This is good stuff for paranoid internet dwellers. Did Bernie ever say a word about this?" And then they responded, "Maybe there's a point about how he was, for nearly a decade, silent on a growing problem covered repeatedly by his own state's press. Not even a statement, if that's true. Was he not paying attention to his own press clips? And now he wants to address it? I know he obviously wasn't the governor, but still." So you see there, they're trying to create a narrative even if they aren't sure about the facts. So they're thinking, did he respond to this? Because if he hasn't said anything about this, then we can nail him for it. So, I mean, it's just really shady things, because the implication here is that, well, you know, he criticizes Hillary Clinton for her support of the 1994 crime bill, but Vermont has such a high rate of African Americans incarcerated, so why hasn't Bernie Sanders done anything about this? Now, we know that there are racial implications because the Clinton campaign, as well as her surrogates, have tried to imply that Bernie Sanders doesn't care about African Americans, because in that one ad that he posted that went viral that everybody loved, well, David Brock stated, "There's no black people in this ad. There's no diversity. There's no people of color. What's going on, Bernie? You can't just cater to white people." So, I mean, we know that this is their go-to tactic. Now, they also tried to spin Bernie's millennial support base as being white only.
You're fucking a white male! You're a white man!
One email states, "Emmy and the team have a good plan to attract all minority voters. When we do well there, then the narrative changes from Bernie kicks ass among young voters to Bernie does well only among young white liberals. That is a different story and a perfect lead into South Carolina, where once again, we can work to attract young voters of color." So I think Nevada is a real opportunity, and I would strongly urge HRC to get out there within a couple of days of New Hampshire. Now, that narrative, as you'll all remember, actually did permeate throughout political discourse for a while. The whole Bernie Sanders only gets white liberal voter support thing, I mean, all media outlets were picking it up. For example, New Republic said, "Bernie's revolution is too white to win." Salon said, "Why Bernie's on shaky ground? White men are leading him to victory as he remains a tough sell with other voters. Sanders' surprising victory in Michigan still sticks to the same pattern. He's winning white men as others stay away." Daily Beast, I mean, probably the most egregious and condescending headline, "The white entitlement of some Sanders supporters. If you're young, white, and privileged, you don't expect to lose. And when you do, it must be because you got cheated. Blacks know better." Now, let me remind everyone that this article was published about a month and a half before the WikiLeaks release of DNC emails that showed we were, in fact, cheated. Now, this isn't just some people within Hillary Clinton's campaign that are trying to use identity politics to the detriment of Bernie Sanders. This is a tactic that Clinton herself used.
I've been told to stop, and I quote, shouting about gun violence. Well, first of all, I'm not shouting. It's just when women talk, some people think we're shouting.
It's time to stand up and pass comprehensive gun safety legislation as a nation.
Senator Sanders, I want you to be able to respond. 30 seconds.
I think the governor gave a very good example about the weaknesses in that law, and I think we have to take another look at it. But here is the point, Governor. We can raise our voices, but I come from a rural state, and the views on gun control in rural states are different than in urban states, whether we like it or not. If you think that we can simply go forward and pass something tomorrow without bringing people together, you are surely
Let me bring
mistaken.
in somebody.
There are some who say that this is an urban problem. Sometimes what they mean by that is it's a black problem. But it's not.
So, I mean, there you have it. That's how Hillary Clinton's campaign tried to use identity politics against Bernie Sanders. He is a straight white male, and so they thought that they could use that to their advantage. And unfortunately, it's an argument that resonated with a lot of people in the Democratic voting base because, you know, we don't want the same status quo, right? I mean, what's more establishment than another straight white male? We want Hillary Clinton, who's a woman, who really actually cares about people of color and poor people and gay people, right? Is that why she was on the wrong side of marriage equality, or is an economic elite herself? Look, it's just so ridiculous, and this is why we have to gravitate away from identity politics and really look at the substance of these candidates' arguments, because they're going to use this as a tactic to manipulate you, but don't fall for it. Look at what their policies actually represent.